Welcome back to The Last of Pods, everybody. BD here with Ash Crossan, and we are talking about Last of Us Episode 8. This is the moment we have been waiting for longer than we've literally been admitting to you all. We've known this is happening for a minute. We are so excited. Ash, how you feeling?
I'm feeling so good because, well, you can literally see her. Bella Ramsey is with us right now.
Yes, Bella, Ellie herself. Bella, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, of course. Thank you for having me. And my cat is joining. You can't see him because it's quite dark, but he's gonna be a part of this because he is incredibly old, incredibly needy.
Pets are welcome. Pets are welcome on The Last of Pods. I'm loving the show. I've been a fan of The Last of Us game for a decade now. I would love to just start there. I mean, for you, what have these last few weeks been like? Is it bigger than you expected? Is it like what is this experience been like becoming Ellie, and now the world gets to see it?
I mean, yeah, it's been a little crazy. It's definitely bigger than I expected. I don't know, like I knew signing onto it that it was going to be a big deal, but I don't think I really like registered it that much. But yeah, it's been cool. I've just been doing everything's sort of the same. I've just been doing like more interviews and traveling a bit more. Like I got back from Paris yesterday. It was kind of bougie. But yeah, just like little bits and bobs.
You look so good in Paris, I have to say.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're wearing like Dior, I think. It looks so good.
Yeah.
Before Last of Us, a lot of us knew you from Game of Thrones, obviously, as Lyanna Mormont. So I want to ask, I don't know if anybody's asked you this. I haven't seen it anywhere. What do you think? How would Lyanna and Ellie get along if they were ever in the same world?
I think that's a great question, first of all. I think that they would initially, I just feel like Ellie would annoy Lyanna with like, I don't think Lyanna would take very well to Ellie's sense of humor and Ellie's puns and stuff. But I think once they got past that, I feel like they'd find level ground and they'd like go and kill zombies, whether they be White Walkers or clickers together. I think they'd be besties.
They'd be besties. Now, let's dive into episode 8. I think this is the most unsettling episode of the show. It is a rough watch. And it's also coming off the heels of last week, which was like the DLC, which was such a beautiful backstory until it wasn't. Rough ending. But what did you learn about Ellie from that backstory, from that DLC, and seeing her relationship with Riley? I just love there's this moment where Riley gets out the $5 bill and Ellie's like, kind of says like, oh, have you done this with anybody else before, essentially? And I was like, that is me. That was me as a teenager.
Yeah, I mean, that's really funny that you say that. Yeah, I mean, I think that episode was really just about like what it was like for Ellie before like I mean, that experience at the end, like it's the first time she's experienced loss at the end of that episode. And then like obviously that continues and continues and continues like once she begins this journey. But yeah, this took place, I think they say like 3 weeks before Ellie first meets Joel. So I think it's just really cool to have that backstory and like to see what Ellie was like before all of this and before she knew she was immune and like just existing and having a crush on her best friend and like how that plays out. I just think it's cool and it ties in really well to her relationship with Joel and like the point that they're at.
I love that HBO Max tweeted the best friend stare with like you guys looking at each other, and I was like, okay, best friends.
They're friends. History will say they were roommates.
Yeah, history will say they were roommates.
That episode last week on our show, we were talking about, you know, we all have our imagination of what happened after the Riley and Ellie story ended in the show and in the game. They end at the same point. They have the choices, and then it doesn't really tell us what happens next. What do you think, as some, you know, the person who is embodying Ellie? You are Ellie. What do you think happened? Do you think about that?
Yeah, I did think about that quite a lot. Because it also was going to inform like how Ellie is going forwards. I don't know, like depending on the level of trauma, like it's gonna be different. But there was conversations that happened around that actually, and I think we sort of agreed on. I don't know what to say because it's like I think it's up to people's imaginations really. But from our point of view, I think Ellie probably had to make a really hard decision and do something she really didn't want to do and experience great loss, and like that links back to that scene in episode 4, possibly. I lose track of the episodes. Where she's like, "It wasn't my first time
Oh yeah.
seeing somebody," and
Yeah.
it's like, could that first time have been Riley? Possibly.
That's what I was thinking. And then the whole survivor's guilt of her probably just going through this whole thing of being like, why am I not turning? What is going on? Like, and even like being kept in the dark with it makes it so much more tough.
Yeah, and that's why I don't want to like. I don't know if we ever did like explicitly agree, and I think it's more powerful that it's kept like unspoken and kept to people's imaginations, because I think the imagination can often be like darker than reality.
Yeah.
Now we're getting deep. Jeez, sorry.
No, you guys, you and Joel are traveling across the country. In every episode, you're in a completely different setting, and this one is the winter set. What was this set like compared to the other ones? Was it freezing? What was it like?
It was pretty cold. This was in episode 8 we did the coldest day. It was -17 in February in Alberta, Canada. I mean, it was pretty rough. I mean, I loved it though, but it's also like, I think there's a clip of it in the trailer when I'm holding the gun like at those guys, at David and Buddy Boy, and that gun, that was like the real gun, because they didn't have the foam double. So I was just holding this like really freaking heavy gun in like -17 and freezing my ass off. And it got to the point where I couldn't, like, the words didn't come out properly. Like, I sound weird in those scenes because it was so cold and my like vocal box froze.
Oh. We were talking to Troy and he was like, I was freezing, but then there's always the crew guy in shorts.
Yeah, true. Like, Albertans are a different breed.
That scene was like one of those scenes that was straight from the game. You too, Buddy Boy. I love that you called him Buddy Boy. You called Troy Buddy Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is the part of the game where it's the first time we play as Ellie because Joel got impaled. So this week and last week, you're kind of like you're in this show without Pedro. Like this is Ellie kind of on your own. How was it? Did it change? Does the set change? Does the experience, the expectation, the day change when there is no Joel around? How does that change the energy for you?
It completely changes it. Like, suddenly my whole Last of Us experience has been so tied to Pedro. So to like then find like how to, like, I don't know, how to function on set without him was weird. I had withdrawal symptoms from being around him all the time, and his stupid jokes and him playing Xanadu on his phone endlessly. So it was it was a weird change, and I missed him. I really, really, really missed him. Which I think actually worked, like, for the episode, and it made me also appreciate him even more when he was back. I'm like, oh yeah, I've missed you. I've missed you.
I talked to him last night at the Mandalorian premiere, and I was like, is there anything you want me to say? And he was like, just warn her about you, like about me.
Oh yeah.
Tell her Godspeed. I was like, okay. But also on set, Pedro wasn't there, but the original Joel Miller, Troy Baker was. I'm curious what that experience was like for you. Were you, because I know you were kind of encouraged to stay away from the game. Were you encouraged to not pick Troy's brain about Joelisms or Ellieisms at all?
I mean, that wasn't really anything that was talked about. It was, I think, me and Troy had this immediate respect for each other because I had seen bits of the game, and he was obviously coming onto the show, and it was actually it was a really special experience meeting him for the first time and being like, it's like that Spider-Man meme when it's like, yeah, it felt like that. But I don't really know how much we talked about the like, I think he was basically like encouraging me that I was Ellie, you know, and I was like equally as and in awe of his Joel, and I think we just like bonded over that a little bit. We didn't talk about it a lot. We didn't pick each other's brains. We just sort of like took it as a new thing.
He was singing your praises when we interviewed him.
Oh, bless him.
To the point where I think we actually have a little gift for you. Brandon, do you want to tee this up?
We have a little message from Troy who wants to share his thoughts on how things went down in this episode.
I'm terrified.
Got me in the neck, dude. In the neck. And that scene was a lot longer. So my next question is to Craig. We'll talk about
He did tell us about how messy it got and how many times they had to reset the blood bag and all that stuff. But so how many times did you have to kill the original Joel Miller on set?
Quite a lot of times. I just remember him walking around with like axe in his neck all day, and also me being so like desensitized to like all of this and just being like, oh, Troy has an axe in his neck. Like it didn't it's a problem of like growing up in this industry. You really become desensitized to things like that. That was a long day. It just kept going and going and going and going. And I think Troy was even there, like they had to do a little insert shot, I think, of him after. Yeah, I killed original Joel quite a few times. But he was like gonna murder me and like eat me, so I think it's fine.
I think it was justified. And actually, I mean, the reunion, you touched on this about like how kind of, you know, how you actually missing Pedro kind of works for this episode. And so by the end of the episode, we have that reunion. And by that point, now Ellie's just terrified because she's just gone through the most horrific experience that we've seen in this show so far. And it wasn't even infected. It was worse. It was people. And to this point, like Ellie has been almost relentlessly optimistic despite the terrible things that have happened. And I think that's a big reason why we all love Ellie so much. And your work as Ellie, like you do such a good job embodying this character who is just trying to love and be loved and be a light in this dark world. Do you think that, like, how does this kind of change Ellie? And if at all, now that, because that reunion, maybe Joel expected more of an embrace, and it comes, but it's this horrific moment. And what do you think this kind of, like, what happens now?
Oh, that's a big question. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a shift. Like, she's experienced traumas before, but like this is like nothing that she's ever experienced. And I don't think she ever anticipated, like, of all the things that could have gone wrong in this world, like all the time she could have died up until now, like she did not anticipate this. I think she is also scared not only of like what happened with David and what he was going to do to her, but she's also, I think, maybe more afraid of what she did to him and that violence that lives within her. I don't think that we see her, like, she punched Bethany in the face in the last episode, and like we've seen her be violent, but not like this. Like this is, and I think that scares her, like what she's capable of.
I remember in the first episode, the look on your face when Joel kills the Fedra soldier. It's like such a shock. So, I mean, how different do you think? Like, I mean, it's been, I don't know the exact amount of time off the top of my head, but it's been a while you guys have been on the road. And from that moment till now, so much has happened. I mean, how different of a character do you think Ellie is from that moment where that facial expression was just like, couldn't look away in shock over Joel killing the Fedra soldiers, to now, I mean, having to bring out these survival instincts that become quite violent as a means to keep going.
Machete. Yeah.
I mean, like, I think that look was one of shock, but also of like, it was, she liked it, and she liked seeing someone be so violent for her. And then
I knew it. Oh, I wasn't going to say it because I didn't want to be wrong, but I thought that's what was happening.
That's what's happening. You called it. She was like, yeah, it's like seeing someone be so violent for her. It's like, she secretly loves it. I mean, I don't even think it's a secret. And so then this, it's like the full circle of now she's basically she's like replicating that, essentially replicating Joel's actions. Like she killed David probably within like the first 2 hacks of the axe to his face, and she just kept going and kept going and kept going, and it felt good. In the same way that, like, when Joel was beating that guy to death, it was like he didn't have to do that. It's sort of, yeah, I don't know. It's a lot.
What was that like, just for like the technical aspect of filming that on set? That had to be such a draining day of just hacking someone with a machete over and over and over.
Well, the actual hacking part was right at the very end of the day, and we were pushed for time. That was one of the longest days that I did on set. All like the basically all the lead up to that moment took the longest amount of time, and then the actual hacking part was right at the end. Literally, like, had to leg it back to unit base to get blood splatters like painted on my face, and then sprint back to just do it within the last like 20 minutes of the day. I think we did 2, maybe 3 takes of that, squished into the end, and yeah, it was a lot. But I think I had all the energy from the rest of the day, just like that adrenaline high. You know, when you're so tired that you suddenly have like so much energy. I feel like that's what happened. And I was like, the actual thing that I was hitting was like a tray of, it was like spongy. It was like a sponge filled with blood, and yeah, it was interesting for sure.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Overall,
fun.
That sounds fun. What has been your favorite reactions to the show so far?
I have a couple. I like. Oh man, this is a hard question. There's been, you know how also I had an oath with Craig Mazin that I wasn't going to look at comments, and I feel like I've slightly dramatically broken that oath the last couple of weeks. I've liked people's. I'm very aware that I have like there's like a gay army who are on Twitter who are just like supporting me and Ellie, and it's like they're so much louder than any people who still hate it or hate the show, like the homophobic trolls, whatever. And it's just like that feels nice to just have like that army behind me. That's been a reaction that I've really enjoyed. And also just people being like, I love gamers' reactions to the show. Like that's the thing that feels most validating, is when like beloved gamers who are so invested in the game to then say like, this is so good and like lives up to all my expectations and exceeds them. Like that's the thing, that's the reaction that feels like really, really cool.
Have you seen, it's like the meme, it's Joel and Ellie in the game, and Joel's wearing a shirt that says, "I love my lesbian daughter."
Oh yeah,
That's my favorite.
Oh, and actually, you know, to answer your question better, like it's all the memes that have come out of it. Oh, the meme reactions that people are doing. Like there was one the other day that I loved after the episode 7, where it's like Game Ellie has her hands in her head and she's like, "I'm so gay, what the fuck?" And I just love them. I love people like rehashing the game memes to like react to the show. It's the best.
If you search your name, it's like, because like I think a lot of people harp on like the Pedro, the daddy, the fan cams. You have so many fan cams. I feel like that's like, you know, you made it when you have a fan cam edit.
Someone who that I know who's like used to be really obsessed with Tumblr, and like apparently they like check Tumblr for me. They're like, "Oh, you're trending on Tumblr again," which is fun. Like I've never been on Tumblr, so it's I have like different people who are invested in different things, like keeping me updated on like the Tumblr fans. It's kind of hysterical.
Okay, but so if you were going on Twitter or anything to be a fan of something else, what is it that you geek out about the most?
I would have geeked out about if I had Tumblr when I was like watching Merlin for the first time. I would have ate it up. Like Merlin was my show. I loved it. That, and then more recently, Feel Good. Merlin and Feel Good, I would be on Tumblr for hours looking at that.
No, okay, we got. I want to talk. That's not to take away from the fun of being a fan, but I do have to ask you about this episode, this show specifically. You talk about the reactions to it. Each episode seems to really punch us in the gut. Whether it's Nick Offerman and the romantic tragedy ending, or Henry and Sam, or this episode 8. Each one has a different emotional punch, to the point that my mom will text me and be like, I hate that I love this show. It hurts me so much. But so has any of the episodes stood out to you as like memorably challenging emotionally to get through? What has been the toughest one for you to like look at and be like, wow, Ellie's got to go through this. I have to perform this.
Episode 8 for sure. Like,
This one.
No question. Yeah, this one. It's just the most intense. Like, it's Ellie surviving without Joel and surviving for Joel and enduring so much pain for him. Yeah, and it was cold. Like, it was emotionally and physically. This was like the toughest episode, for sure. But I loved it. Like, I had a great time. But yeah, it was. I remember reading the script, and I actually have videos of me reading the script for the first time because I was so. This is sort of a funny story. I was really concerned that my American accent wasn't American anymore because I'd like got so used to it. So it's like, I'm gonna record myself reading this episode out loud so that I can listen back and see if I sound American. And then it just turned into me like live reacting to the crazy shit that I was reading. And I have them somewhere. I dread. I don't think I can ever watch them back, but. I remember the first time I realized reading the script that like these guys were cannibals. I was like, what? It was, yeah, it was pretty dramatic.
I want to see those.
Yeah. If you don't want to watch them, we will. It's
maybe one day.
I mentioned I talked to Pedro last night, and he was like, I was like, oh, is there anything you want me to ask? And he was like, I talk to her constantly. I'm curious of what that friendship means to you, and what's the last thing you guys chatted about?
Oh, the last thing we chatted about was the fact that he came to London and didn't see me. I know.
I would be so mad.
Yeah.
You should go buy some golf clubs.
Oh, don't you know.
Bella, if it makes you feel better, he left his premiere outfit for The Mandalorian in London and then had to change his outfit. So that's karma.
Wow. That is karma.
You guys are all wrapped up on season 1 and season 2 renewal. We're all so excited to hear about. Are you like, how do you get ready to go back to work and do this again? How are you feeling about that?
I'm really excited. It still feels surreal to me that it's gonna go again. But also I'm going into it with I don't want to go into it comparing it to the experience of the first season, because I'm like that's never gonna. Like, season 1 of The Last of Us was like the best year of my life, and it's not going to be the same. So I just have to like go into it being like, this is season 2, and I loved season 1, but this is just going to be different. I'm really excited. I just want to be back in Canada, like with Craig, Mason, and Pedro for a little bit. It's going to be really nice. I'm really excited.
We're all so terrifiedly excited for season 2, and we haven't even finished season 1 yet. But it's great. Bella, thank you so much for hanging with us on Lastopods.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
This is so awesome. Right. Yay. Thank you.
We'll be right back in just a moment, everybody. We're going to talk about spoilers from the game and what you can expect in the season finale of The Last of Us. We'll see you in just a moment.